impressive milestone represents for our organization, our membership and our profession. Over nearly 5
chapter started its journey back in the 2002 and is the founding chapter in the country with over 150 members. We truly believe in our mission to promote equality in the corporate, business, academia and public sector.
The year 2000 successfully collaborated with leading universities of Islamabad to deliver programs that will extend beyond the traditional certification-oriented training and will focus on instilling practical capabilities, improving individual skills in technology. Capital University for Science and Technology, PMI Islamabad chapter becomes
Head of Campus, Head of Department, Management Sciences, Mr. Pervez Khan Sahab, Head of Campus, Mr. Islamabad, Conference 2019. Today's conference theme is Project Management for Sustainable Economic Growth and Diversity. Project Management as a management brings insightful talks and panel discussion by renowned economists and project managers. Also, we have organized a recruitment drive to connect you with new career opportunities in project management.
As we're starting our day, don't forget to use the hashtags for this year's conference, Unravel It. That's the view of former World Bank Vice President Ian Golden, who says in 2019, in his capacity as a senior member of the economic team of the Prime Minister, he actively contributed on major decisions for promoting economic cooperation in South and Central Asia, having worked in the USA, Europe, Middle East, Asia, and the Pacific.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Harun Sharif, President Asia.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Managed to learn a lot more about PMI and also about Zedist. So with basically straightforward, I'll come to the topic. I think what I would like to speak in the spirit of this event today is very much linked to the capability argument in Pakistan. All of us are looking forward to a good life. All of us are questioning ourselves, where are we stuck when our peer countries have moved ahead? So I would try and unravel this question a little bit today. And it is basically, I hope that we manage to learn from each other. That basically, what is it where Pakistan is stuck and how should we take it forward? I have seen Pakistan with different lenses, as the kind introduction has basically mentioned. I have been seeing Pakistan for 18 years with the lens of international organizations, and another 16 countries I've worked in. I have seen Pakistan now very recently as member of the cabinet and head of board of investment. I set up this organization some 20 years back, Securities and Exchange Commission. So I saw the regulatory and financial market side. So when I combine this experience, I would like to share a few thoughts today in this regard. So if we could move to my slides, I hope it works. So what I would like to start with, this is a 2016 occupy the economic scene globally, what we are seeing. So we are seeing Indonesia coming up, we are seeing Brazil coming up, China, India actually leading ahead of the United States. This is a table which many of us have seen. I don't want to go into that, but I really want to see that the emerging markets, as mentioned in the introduction, are likely to be the major players in the global scene. If we move ahead and we look at the top 4 players, so what we are looking at is China 18%, US 16%, EU, India. So what we are seeing is that our neighborhood, the 2 most powerful economies in the world, will be next door neighbors of Pakistan in the next 30 years. And that's important for us to note, because I will try and link up few thoughts to that. people have often specifically, like economists, wondered that is it really possible to fast track development? We have seen several examples where countries have in 20 years or 30 years moved up to the levels of middle income and to the borders of higher income countries. So the answer to this question is yes, in this day and age, with this technology and this rapidly changing world, people have moved up. So that is a possibility. It's not that you say that it's 200 years phenomenon. So I looked at this chart that how would Pakistan look like in the eyes of international analysts and organizations. So when I look at it, so China's GDP goes up there by 2050. The red line basically is US. India actually is projected to be crossing US about 2040. I should have added Bangladesh because that shows a pretty nice curve. Whereas the bottom line is Pakistan, where we basically by 2050, if we remain, the second key message, if we continue doing business the way we are, if we do not bring changes in the structure of economy, this is the kind of projection we should be looking at. That means that if we have a $300 billion economy today, so we will perhaps have $500 billion economy. And with the population growth, I would caution that that is something we all should worry about. That if we do not, there is something structurally needed to be shifted is the second message. While our peer countries and the change of economic world order is actually rapidly taking place. We can very clearly link it up with the conflict. So conflict on the western side of Pakistan and poverty in the western side of Pakistan are two major things if we have seen in the past 15, 20 years, which has held Pakistan, the perception. I was urging Asia. So when I look at these numbers, so it's almost 7% growth in our peer countries, with our growth falling behind 3%, below 3%. Now, yesterday the finance minister said that we might be slightly above 3%, but again, it is half the growth of South Asia at the moment. And that is the point when I say that we need to get out of denial. If our peer countries, the neighboring countries, grow at the double the rate we are growing, I think our position in South Asia in terms of our negotiation, in terms of our political positioning, in terms of our welfare will be tremendously hurt. If everybody is going through a low growth period, then one can link it up. But if others are growing at double the pace, so I think Pakistan needs to think very carefully about my fundamental question of today's talk, that can we catch up with emerging Asia? But the numbers are basically such. So we basically look at lots of media, social media. My request to you is that you look at from your professionals, look at the lens of comparison, look at the lens of our neighboring economies, so that one can think clearly and realistically. The word important is that we need to be realistic to set up ourselves where to go. We have been stuck in the three kinds of deficits for years, and you all read about the twin deficit. Dr. Aisha is smiling, she has dealt with it. Basically, we are stuck with, we go a little bit of growth, we get into a balance of payment crisis because our exports don't go up, our competitive is going down, competitiveness. We get into a budgetary deficit near the election cycle. All governments like to spend before that, and we go back to the bailout packages, and that's the pattern again and again and again being repeated. I would like to highlight one more thing. There's a deficit which I call the trust deficit. And that is perhaps currently is hitting Pakistan more than the first two deficits. It is the trust between the state and the citizens. It is the trust between international community and Pakistan. unless and until Pakistan comes up with interventions which inspire trust, it will be very difficult for Pakistan to attract the kind of attention we are looking for. And why I'm highlighting, I'm an economist, but my firm belief is that development has a lot to do with human engagement. And human engagement strengthens on the trust levels. And today the trust comes not with talk, it comes with action. So if we can demonstrate a few transactions, and I'll come to it, then the people will start believing in us. If we continue saying, for instance, what are the 3-4 top things for years and years we are listening to? Pakistan has a wonderful strategic location. Take a pause for a while. Have we managed to leverage that location even an inch? So having a toy but not being able to play with it, is that basically a good idea? So the question should be, are we leveraging the endowments we have? Or are we just boasting on the endowments we have? So it's basically like telling people about family silver, but not really letting people share or adding value to it. So that's something I wanted to highlight here. Pakistan's, it's all about exports, frankly speaking. Foreign exchange, Pakistan, if you again look at it, our percentage to GDP to export is less than 10%, whereas the other countries have really, really crossed us many-fold. Now, why have we struggled not to increase our exports? And that's a wider question, but 3-4 things. Today, you cannot continue export very basic commodities. I was in China 3-4 times and twice with the Prime Minister. So once we moved into this stall where China was very kind, they had given a stall to Pakistan right next to China. So on one hand, we were seeing the products which were space age, which were artificial intelligence, and in our stall what we were seeing were footballs, canoes, rice. So what does it tell us? It tells us basically that the investment in value addition has not been done. Investment in research and innovation has not been done. Investment in human resources. Commodities of $1 billion to actually sell it to China. Now, in the real world, you cannot compete on a subset. If you want to be competitive, and I will compare 2 cities in Pakistan with what we had expected. Now I compare 2 cities. One is Islamabad, which is an exporting hub. One is Sialkot, which is also an exporting hub. Whereas Islamabad is struggling because of concessions all the time and did not invest in their competitiveness. For a time being, you can get some concessions, value added export share. Otherwise, our peer country, which I wanted to give. China being now the leader in the economic business. And then one reason is very simple, that digitalization and equality-based globalization. Globalization with lesser inequality. We are saying, traditionally, initially I said the tool of the future, and that's not economic. It just does not make India and China will be competing with each other and there will be 2 blocks emerging. So now what are those, again and again, is Pakistan's leadership role through economic diplomacy. And I would again say that somebody else will come and take leadership on our behalf. Regional program for 6 years. We tried, the policy was outsourced, even our thinking was outsourced. Not delivering to its potential, but look at the West Asia ministers. When I was head of the World Bank regional program, I pitched the same thing, that Pakistan should take relationship with these countries. Just ask partnership lens. Look at Europe, look at ASEAN. When we say emerging Asia, what happens in leadership? Do our best ambassadors go spending more time there? I have my friend sitting who has spent several years there. But all I'm trying to say here is that a graduate school asks your students that can you name 10 cities of China? If you ask them to name 50 states of the US, it will not take long. So our training, our background, our mindset is still vested in the West, whereas the new opportunities are in the region. So there is a very profound change in economics terms, which we call new economic geography. That is where countries exploit the advantage of proximity to their economic benefit. And that's the economic geography which, if Pakistan wants to leverage its strategic location, we need to look at. So that's the macro picture of mindset I wanted to say. Unless we shift that mindset, and the timing is right, we need to stand up, we need to have confidence. We have wonderful professionals in the private sector, and we should use our maximum, skill sets to actually move ahead with that. I would also like to highlight, for years and years, we have banked on resources through the Bretton Woods institutions, and I have been part of the World Bank group. But let me highlight, there's a huge change happening in terms of financial resources available to developing world. Within our region, I would name a few. There's a creation of new development banks like Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, the New Development Bank. There are country-led initiatives like Belt and Road in China. There are sovereign wealth funds of oil countries. The slow growth in the West is prompting them to look at new houses to go. But the new houses are failing to put a value proposition for them to take. And I give you an example. When I was Chairman Board of Investment, the Qatar Investment Authority is the sovereign wealth fund of Qatar. Their asset value today is $350 billion. And Pakistan, they have asked us to pitch for $20 billion worth of projects. We have not managed to do so. And that is a project management question, that can we really pitch a value proposition to the private capital available to us, or we continue to the same model, which is subsidized lending. Actually, that model is fading across the globe. None of the East Asian countries grew on World Bank funding. They grew on indigenous financial markets, they grew on the regional power, and they grew on competitiveness. So there is a shift we need, that we outsource our thinking to a very old model which was created to rebuild certain countries and then continue to push a specific thinking. So we need to balance out. I'm not saying it's either or. Pakistan has not looked at this pool of either the capital markets. So I highlight that new partnerships and diversification class investor information sheets and projects. And that is something which is lacking in the state. The state apparatus is still working on a reactive mode. State apparatus does not have the skills, and we try and hide by blaming others rather than investing in ourselves. I'll be very honest and open here that our state capability, and I'll put numbers. If you open up World Economic Forum's number of competitiveness, they have 20 indicators on capabilities. If we start comparing capabilities, I compared it with China. So on the scale of 1 to 10, if China's procurement capability was 8, Pakistan is 3. At the time of planning, if our capability is 4,
for honoring us with your presence in today's session. So ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Haroon Sharif as our keynote speaker, doing justice with his glorious profile, a very comprehensive insight followed by a solution. कि अगर हालात इस नहज तक पहुंच ही गए हैं तो क्या रास्ता इख्तियार किया